The Elgin Police Department is dedicated to working in partnership with the community to promote safety and enhance the quality of life by serving with professionalism, encouraging open communication, and embracing diversity.
Engaged.
Partnering with our citizens and involved in our community.
Progressive.
Embracing innovative strategies while maintaining proven practices.
Dedicated.
Serving with integrity and professionalism. Elgin became an incorporated city in 1854 and installed its first police marshal, George W. Renwick. Over the years, the title of the head law enforcement officer changed from marshal to chief. And although the role has expanded, one duty has remained consistent: to ensure law and order for the citizens of Elgin.
It's time now for Fridays with the Finest, featuring Elgin's current police chief, Anna Lally, on Elgin's hometown radio station since 1949, WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM.
And good morning, everybody. We are here, and it is Friday. So what is Friday? It's Fridays with the Finest. That's Chief Anna Lally, who you're not able to see. Poke your head around the corner there, Chief. But we have some great people in here.
Okay.
Yes, we have the cold case investigators, Sergeant Vartanian.
Why do I feel like
we have Beth Stericker and Chris Hall. They are in the studio. Yeah, they don't mind getting close with each other. This works out fine, but that's going to be right in your eyes,
right
Chief.
in my, yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
the
we
upper
switch
piece.
the camera, go this way. Yeah, for now
Yeah.
I'll be off there until you guys switch. Come on back, you guys. Okay. I don't want the sun in my eye.
All
That's
right.
okay. I'm the voice over here. You can't see me, but I am here. So good morning, Elgin. So today we have some familiar faces, our cold case unit. They are here to just kind of give an update on where they're at with the cold case, where we're at with the podcast, some interesting things going on. But before we get into that, I just want to mention to our community. So obviously, as we approach the 4th of July here, fireworks, we talk about this every year. And just a reminder to the community that they are obviously prohibited within the city of Elgin. Some things that what the police department does every year that we will continue. We have some walk and talks. We did one last week, and we will do the upcoming ones on Tuesday, June 23rd, and Thursday, June 25th. And the areas in which we select to do those walk and talks are areas in which we have an increased calls for service for fireworks calls over the past 3 years. So if you see officers out and about, Tuesday, June 23rd in the Cherry Center, Franklin Douglas area, and then June 25th in the May Street, St. Charles, Hill, and Chicago and Park area, we are doing walk and talks for fireworks. Additionally, officers will be very proactive, as usual, to address those fireworks complaints. You can report fireworks to the city, to us, through our non-emergency number at 847-289-2700. Or if you jump on our transparency page at the first main page, there's a link that you can click, and those complaint forms will come to us, and we will send an officer out. Also, the city and the police department, we do have signs available if anyone wants to pick up a sign that just says basically to celebrate the 4th of July in a friendly neighborhood kind of way. So, I know this is the time where there's a lot of, people like fireworks. They hate fireworks. We get a lot of calls for service. Some people, think, why are we even going to that? So the fireworks are illegal. There is a city ordinance. So please be considerate of your neighborhood and of, whether people have pets or if they're veterans or, some people have to get up the next day and go to work. So the city does host a fireworks show on 4th of July. There's a parade starting early in the morning, and then later on a festival and fireworks. So I will be talking about that. Obviously, I get it. I get both sides. I understand both sides. But it is our responsibility to make sure that people kind of see and know what we're doing and what's going on. If they have any issues, to let us know. So that's the thing I wanted to really kind of hit on with the 4th of July. Also, National Night Out. You have until June 30th if you'd like to host a party. So you can go on our Facebook, click the QR code, and then you can. Oh, there I am, right? We're on a split screen here. Okay, no worries. I'm not going to really talk today, too, so this is all good. They have it right here. So, but yes, if you want to register your National Night Out party and you want to host a party, we would love for you to. June 30th is the deadline. So with that, though, members of our cold case unit, We have, and I mean, I think everybody's kind of familiar with who they are. We have Beth, Andrew, and Chris, and they have been working diligently on several cases. Also, really highlighting those cases on our podcast. Somebody knows something. So if you're not a listener, try it. Listen, it's pretty interesting, and it's getting a lot of attention, which is a good thing for the cases. It's really good to bring attention to some of these cases that are years old, many, many, many years. So you guys were here, I think, maybe a month and a half ago or something like that, giving us an update. You were planning some trips to Chicago, to Joliet. You had some really interesting things coming up. So why don't you guys just kind of fill us in on where you're at, what's going on, status of cases, and take it away.
Yeah, we are well on our way into season 3 of Somebody Knows Something, which is highlighting specifically one case, the disappearance of Whiteria Jones. So our listeners that are following along on season 3, we are, I think, more than halfway through the season already, and it has taken us on many different locations within Illinois, potentially outside of Illinois as well. So you'll have to stay tuned for further episodes on that for season 3. In addition to that, we are balancing the other 5 cases that we are currently investigating, and there are some investigative leads that we've taken regarding evidence, and hopefully, further down the line this year, maybe we'll have some exciting updates, hopefully.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I think we just had our 8th episode come out, 7th episode come out the other day. So we have a couple more slated for getting us probably through like July, and season 4 will probably wrap up sometime in July or August. These things are kind of fluid, so sometimes things can change, but that's kind of what we're anticipating. Big thing that we're looking to do is try to get DNA. So that's been something, hopefully we'll have an update in the next month or so on that. And then that process can take quite a while. So, if we get to a point where we feel like we've done a lot of updates on Whiteria's case, the season may come to an end as we start shifting focus. Doesn't mean we're done investigating the case, but the season itself may end.
Okay. And when you guys, when you went to, because I know, Beth, you were doing a lot of research, and that kind of research came a little bit after the radio show where you guys had some. So is there stuff that you can talk about with the community about that you found from her case?
Right. So we had done a little bit of research in trying to build a family tree, and then we did some research on where she had been when she spent her time here in Elgin. And we know that she lived at the Douglas, and one of the theories was maybe that she went to Joliet because the people that owned the hotel, the Douglas Hotel, also owned a property in Joliet. So we actually went down there. We went to the property, which is now an apartment building.
Okay.
And I can't remember if we talked about this later. I don't think we talked
So
about
with the Douglas Hotel, because you guys had visited the Douglas Hotel at
Correct.
the last episode, when you went to Joliet, was the footprint of what that built? It was a hotel then in Joliet.
So it was a hotel, and it was kind of it was a little different layout, but it was still, you walked in, it was
Much
a very
bigger.
old,
Much bigger.
bigger, and a very old lobby.
Yeah.
With the old elevators and all that. And the people, we first walked in, and they kind of gave us the like, what are you guys doing here? Chris and I first walked in, and I was like, so sorry to bother you. And then the lady was like, when we told them who we were and what we did, she was like, oh. And then there was another lady behind the glass. It was like, I said, I know this is a weird thing. We're not scammers. I can show you our identification. I said, but I know this is kind of what we're doing and whatever. And she's like, oh my God, there's somebody who lives here, who's lived here since the.
Since like 1979.
Wow. They're still there?
Yes.
Yeah, so he came down and we met with him and talked to him about the hotel, some history of the hotel. He didn't want to go on audio, but we kind of described a little bit of it in our episode. But to get a little more in depth, like he talked about how long he'd lived there, a little bit about the ownership. We learned some new information that when he was living at the hotel in Joliet, this family that owned that hotel owned a third hotel in Texas. And so he had said that there'd been a period of time where they had some tenants at the Joliet hotel get on a bus and move to Texas. And they facilitated that. So then as we left, Beth and Chris and I were kind of talking like, well, could they have facilitated travel from Elgin to Texas, or Elgin to Joliet, or Elgin to somewhere else? And that kind of opened up some new things. So we had to kind of track down, well, where was this hotel in Texas? Did they own it in 1982? And we're still trying to work on that. The closest record we can get, I think, is 86 that they own this hotel in Texas. But it's still just digging through kind of a lot of those old records.
Isn't that weird? Is it weird when you walk in there and you kind of like, it's back to the, late 70s and you kind of, nothing really changes, right? It's just kind of like, it's weird, right? You're kind of, now when these ladies were kind of like, oh, who are you? And you told them, did you guys tell them that you guys are the people on the podcast?
Yeah.
Did you flex a little? Were they
Well, we
like,
said
get
we
us
had a
on, get us on the
podcast. She wasn't a listener. I think they are now.
Oh,
But
no, yes.
There was
well,
another. She said, there was a girl who has lived here for a while, and she knows more about it, and she knows a lot of the residents. So she, we talked to her. We waited because she was about to show up to work. So when we got there, she was like, "Oh yeah, and I know this." Like she knew everybody who lived in the building.
Wow.
She knew everybody, and she, the gentleman we spoke to was a little bit older, and she's like, he's kind of shy, and so she got him, and I said, we don't want him to be uncomfortable if he'd like to talk to us. We'd love to know if he had any information.
Yeah.
We showed him a picture of Viteria. Obviously, it's a really old picture that we had, so he's like, she doesn't look familiar, but then he would start talking about other stories and start talking about this, and that's how we found out about the Texas thing, because he even said that he went
to
Texas.
Yeah.
He was one of the ones
He
who
was
went
able
there.
to tell us what city it was in, so that's how we tracked down the actual hotel. But he didn't remember anyone from Elgin coming to the hotel when he lived there, so that at least gives us some indication that
she wasn't there.
she may not have made it to that location. Like maybe she did still plan to go there, but he's like, I don't remember anyone from Elgin coming down here and moving here. Now maybe they did and he just didn't know them. But the hotel was a 9-story hotel or 10-story hotel, something like that. The first couple floors were individual rooms, then upstairs were apartments. And we think that based on her life here, that she probably was not in the apartments upstairs with multiple roommates. She was more likely in her own apartment on the first couple floors. But the people that we met with from the hotel also work with the Joliet Area Historical Museum. So they were going to look and help us try to track down any additional records if they could. And actually, the curator of the museum reached out to us this week because he's going to help us try to get some records from Cook County on a homicide case that we had talked about in our last episode, that Viteria's husband was arrested for a murder in 1967.
So what do you guys think? I mean, Beth, were you going to say something? I'm
I
sorry.
was
It
going
looked
to say,
like
the people at the hotel, too, had said they were, when they were cleaning out and digging through stuff, she's like, oh, wait, we have a box of stuff. So she went back for a little bit and got, because I'm like, oh, my God, maybe they have records. And she's like, yeah, it's just a bunch of, like, receipts, like old receipts, but
They didn't found stuff in the walls.
Yeah, there was
hidden,
all sorts of crazy stuff all over. But again, that building's been there.
And you know what's
forever.
interesting is like if you think about like, so there's this box just sitting there. So like, do you know the case of Robert Durst? So HBO.
Yes.
So I mean, think about how that case was solved. Is that so the woman's son finds a box and finds the letter with Beverly Hills, and then think about that box had sat there for years.
Yep.
Right, and then it's only until you look at it and then you kind of realize, oh my God, look at the handwriting, the odds of that. So like that kind of stuff to me is like I said, I love the cold case stuff. I do. I get a lot of grief sometimes about the cold case thing. Like just that. Why are you guys doing that? And, what's the importance of it? It's like the importance is if there is something like that, right? You go to this, like you guys are so in it and you have to be in it because then you're going to be excited about seeing a box.
Well,
like Beth, like you're seeing a box
really excited when she
because,
said
because potentially what that could do for your case.
It was old like receipts, so it was like payment slips for different hotels.
Yes.
So we physically went through them all to see like, is one of these payment slips going to be her or someone else that we'd recognize from Elgin to see if that made sense. But I think it was from a little bit later in the 80s, if I remember right.
But nonetheless, right? I mean, you never know, and I think that's the whole thing.
Right?
Yes.
They have our contact, and if somebody comes up with something or somebody hears something else.
Yeah.
Well, and the odds that there's a
reach out,
person
right?
that's like, oh yeah, he's lived in this building since 1970, whatever it was, and he still lives there. It was great to be able to talk to somebody that had that type of intimate knowledge of the property and the ownership.
Yeah,
and stuff
at that time.
At that time
Yeah.
period.
I think it's the breadcrumbs that we get that no one else has gotten up to this day in time was what's exciting for us because unless we touch it, no one else is looking at it, right? And that's why, hence, it's a cold case to begin with. So every time we get a little piece of the pie back, we get really excited and we get like actual momentum to work forward, and that's why we're doing what we're doing because it's one more step towards closure, hopefully.
So you guys also you went to Chicago, correct? So tell me a little bit about that trip.
We went out to Union Station, just trying to retrace the possible steps of where Whiteria may have traveled back then in 1982. And then from Chicago, who knows? Chicago's a major hub for travel. We also went into the neighborhood where she used to reside with her husband, Wayman Jones, and
Couple kids,
yeah,
at the time.
downtown Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah,
So are you able to get like from Union Station. So when you buy a ticket, like how did they buy tickets in the 70s at Union Station? Because like now nobody know. Well, unless you pay with a credit card.
Yeah, it would be all cash.
It's
but
all
like,
cash.
We kind of wanted to see too, because you could take a train or take the Greyhound bus down to that same general area. But you could get back out to the best way to get to Joliet would have been to go to Chicago first, and then you could get a train. There was 2 different stations, one at LaSalle Street where you'd have to walk a couple blocks, or you could stay at Union Station and take a train from there. So we're kind of like, it doesn't make sense to take it down there and then go to LaSalle Street if you can stay there and just take the train directly back to Joliet. So we kind of wanted to piece that together. But she could get directly to Aurora. We drove. It goes right down Route 31. It was bus 801 at the time. I think it's changed to something different now. And it could have dropped her off on Lake Avenue, or Lake Street, which is 31. And it was, a 15-minute walk to her house, roughly, from like where the bus stops would have been there, which would be pretty feasible. It would be, she could have walked over here, a 2-minute walk across the street from the hotel, taken a 25-minute bus ride, and walked 15 minutes back to her house. That'd be pretty feasible. But then as we go through, and part of the reason we went to Chicago as well was there was a homicide in 1967 at a bar restaurant called the Shadow Mar Lounge.
No longer there.
About a block? Not even a block.
What was it called? The Shadow
Mar Lounge.
Shadow Mar Lounge.
It was on
It's
Pulaski,
so like
400 block
so
of
60s,
Pulaski.
right? So like
Yeah.
isn't it? Have you ever been to the Shadow Mar Lounge?
Shadow Mar. I knew you the Shadow
409
Mar.
South Pulaski.
Shadow Mar Lounge.
Who's in the back?
The bar is no longer there, but we're talking roughly 200 feet from
The
bar
alleyway,
to
yeah.
the residence where they resided.
So there was a gentleman named Otis Johnson who was shot and killed there overnight in November of '67, and they arrested Wayman Jones for that murder. He was arrested, he was indicted, and then in 1968 the case was dismissed. We're still waiting to get additional records to find out why that case was dismissed. But at the time, we didn't know if Whiteria was somehow related to that. Was there a relationship between her and Mr. Johnson? Did she know any of the people involved in that case? But the records Beth got us as we were going through the process told us that she was actually here in Elgin when that homicide occurred. So that gives us a little bit of a different thought process about that too. But again, we didn't have those records until Beth got those in, 2 months ago maybe?
So that's the other thing too. Like, so what? I mean, you think about it. To your point, Andrew, you said you go to Union Station, you could go anywhere from there, like literally anywhere. So as you guys are making your way and kind of coming to the end of the season, and you're doing all this research, and what do you guys think happened? I mean, again, we don't know for certain, but just based on what you're to this point, what's your gut tell you?
I still have a hard time making a really strong decision. I think it's most likely that she's not alive would be the most likely scenario, just based on
Because she would be how old?
She'd be 85 in
Okay.
May.
Yeah.
So you're talking for her to not reach out to her kids, not reach out to any of her family, not have anyone else have contact with her for 40 plus years is just like a statistical anomaly.
Yeah.
For her to
Yeah.
just vanish like that. We know she had medications she was taking that she never refilled. We know she had state benefits that came in that were never re-upped. We know her social security number was never used, right, for like new checks and stuff like that. So it doesn't seem like she made it to Joliet, at least at this point, based on our conversations with people there or records there. It's possible she did, but my thought would be something happened here in Elgin before she left, or she left to go somewhere else and something happened in between
In
here and there
transit,
in
yeah.
transit, maybe.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, that's still part of the problem.
And that's the thing too. It's like, so, and who actually, again, refresh my memory, who reported her missing?
Her husband.
Her husband did. And how, when did her, he comes to, how does that happen? It's January, just kind of for the listeners here, refresh how it actually comes to the Elgin Police Department.
I believe he came to the station
Yeah.
about
January 29th.
January 29th of 83. Yeah.
And she's last seen somewhere around September 29th, October 1st, like that kind of time frame.
Yeah.
But which I think initially you think that could be suspicious that
Yeah.
he didn't contact anyone for 4 months. He says he did come in earlier than that in this November or December. There's no record of that, and he's dead, so we can't confirm that. But
We don't
again,
know
based
that
on the records Beth got,
we don't know how often they had contact with each
Yeah.
other because
they were
living,
estranged.
right, separately, and Elgin Aurora was a good distance back then.
When we started, we
She
thought
was
she had
alive.
moved out here roughly in early '82 because that was what the federal census records had. But then when Beth got records from the state, she was living in Illinois or in Elgin in 1975. So that was a huge difference for us because it really gives you paints a different picture of what their relationship probably was.
Yeah.
She's out here in 1975 and essentially here with a very short stay in Tennessee in 1976. She's out here for 5-6 years, 7 years.
Doing her thing.
You know,
yeah.
That's a big difference than she's out here 6 months. So maybe they didn't have very much of a close relationship. Maybe didn't know she was missing until November, December.
And I think the key to it is, you sometimes and I think it's good to keep this in perspective. Some people might say, well, doesn't the Elgin Police Department, there's cameras, there's body worn cameras, because people are equating what happens today. Yeah. There's very few places that you can go where there's not a camera, or on your way to, a camera is going to catch you. So, that technology doesn't exist in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. So if you walked into the Elgin Police Department today and you're reporting someone missing, we have body worn camera footage of that first initial interview. We have cameras of where you came from. We have all this technology, social media. We can figure out all this stuff about you. So sometimes it's good to remind the listeners that you're not equating the same type of policing philosophy or mechanisms that we're able to do stuff to today. Because
you have to put yourself back.
You have to put yourself back in the late 80s.
And what was the name of that bar?
The Shadow Mar Lounge.
Yeah, Shadow Mar Lounge. Guaranteed they had no cameras.
Yeah, the Shadow Mar Lounge, though, I'm pretty sure that if it was in existence today, the Shadow Mar Lounge is probably not having cameras. So,
Yeah, like you said, the philosophy is different. I mean, she's reported in January of 83. Karen Sheepers is reported in April of 83.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same thought process of, well, wait a couple of days, she'll probably come back.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened, obviously. But it's not hard to imagine that potentially a similar conversation could have happened with Wayman Jones and an officer in December or January of 83 saying, she was at the mental health center, like, we'll check around for her, come back in a week. But there's no record of anything like that. So
what is our police report like? So we take this police report. Does it get assigned to a detective?
Yeah.
And what does the detective do? On a scale of 1 to 10.
They go
10 being they did everything they probably should have done. And I wasn't the police chief in 1983.
They reach out to the Douglas Hotel.
They like the addendum there.
They talk to some witnesses at the Douglas Hotel who they believe potentially last saw her. They get a time frame of when she was last seen. They confirm when the hotel closed. They talk to her counselor at Elgin Mental Health Center and get information from her. And that's where the information for Joliet comes in. She says, Whiteria told me she was going to go to Joliet. They check in with Joliet, confirm that, at least according to the hotel staff, we don't have anyone by that name that ever came here. And then they search the location about 2 months later because it's been condemned and closed, but they go back in there and search at the behest of the family. And then there's not much done after that until the 2000s, and we'll talk about that in our one of our episodes coming up, where there was some follow-up when we did a leads validation and found some new records. They reached out to some people in Tennessee, tried to track down family in Tennessee. But, I mean, there wasn't a ton for them to do other than talk to some people, try to figure out where she went, and then, like you said, I don't know what else you're expecting them to do.
Yeah, exactly. At that point,
there's only so much they can do.
There's only so much that they can do.
Would we do it differently now? Yes.
Of course.
But it's hard to equate the two.
And that's why, go ahead.
Go.
And that's why doing this show with you, Dean, and WRMN and the podcast, that's why we're so heavily dependent on tips from the public, tips from our listeners listening right now who they hear that name of that bar, they hear the name of the hotel, and it jogs their memory because a case like this is eerily similar to Karen's, where there's not a lot known, and we are still tracking down leads, but it's a very heavily dependent case with help from the public, hopefully. And the type of response we got from the Joliet Hotel, that's the type of response we hope to elicit by doing these shows.
Yeah, the records Beth got too. She worked at some area nursing homes, so like we talked about those in the episodes. We kind of dropped the names of those different nursing homes. Like maybe somebody remembers working with her, or her caring for them at the nursing home, or caring for a family member maybe at the nursing home. Just anyone that lived at the Douglas Hotel, lived at the Joliet Motor Lodge, anybody that maybe knew the Zima family that owned this hotel, maybe when they owned their hotel in Texas, if you lived at their hotel in Texas, like all that kind of information would help us kind of paint a picture of,
and the little piece,
where she could have been.
The little nugget. I still remember in the one episode you were talking about in the Sheepers case, where they were moving that day and they happened to have that letter. What were the chances of that?
Yeah.
of you recovering that, and again, give you some more clues and everything that goes along with it. So, you folks listening, please call in. Somebody knows something. It's a great podcast. This is a great cold case division that the chief has put together. Talented individuals, but they want your help. They need your help. You have a tip? Who could they call? Chris?
1-847-289
Cold.
There you go. See, they know it. And that's the other thing too. Like, so a couple things, think about all this stuff that we just talked about, right? A person you just don't vanish off the face of the earth. It's as simple as that. So now you have to think about, she's probably not alive, because at this point too, with social media, and if she had family, like, someone's going to say, I'm here, like, hey guys, right? Just for the mere fact of people don't want people, I would hope, waste time or at least have some closure. But she either, probably it's a couple things, right? She either, has something, happen to her, right? Some foul play happens to her, or she goes somewhere where she kind of just is anonymous, and then just kind of maybe she does pass away and nobody really knows her, and there's really no, nothing. She kind of just, okay, she passes away, whether or not, she's buried somewhere, whether or not she's cremated. Like, you just don't disappear off the face of the earth. So, there has to be somebody who knows the little amount of information that can help us. And I would, to tie it back to Karen's case. So you have to have the public, and you need that information, because as time is ticking here, eventually, people are not going to be around who remembers this time period. And you can't go back and watch body-worn camera video and this and that. But to Karen's case, you also need dedicated people who are excited about this, the enthusiasm. And that's what, for Karen's case, between Andrew and Matt at the time, they literally thought maybe she drove this path and maybe this happened, right? That just doesn't, that's people actually thinking about what is the weirdest thing, the most unlikely thing, the least probable thing that could happen. And let's explore that. That's where people get caught up a little bit about, you could just literally, well, I think this happened. Well, all right, well, let's explore it. I think that's the attitude you have to have, right? There isn't any type of limitation on us, because Karen's case, is it luck? Some of it, probably, right? The fact that we were in that area, they know to go to the river. They know to go and check. They're checking, but then something tells them, go back to the same place that we checked. That's whatever you want to call it.
It's
luck,
intuition.
Divine intervention, karma, the universe aligning, whatever it is that you think. That's a little bit of luck. And then sometimes in these cases, you need the stuff to kind of build you up to all of a sudden, the luck that might help you. So, and I think in that case, think about that, right? And then for her, like, I think it's a year ago, but I feel like it was like 10 years ago. Maybe that's just me. Does it feel weird? Like,
I think because you slide into these other cases, and all of a sudden you're kind of
in it,
up to your neck in other stuff.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it seems like it was 5-10 years ago, but it was
just a year ago.
A little over a year ago.
A little over a year ago. And that, momentum and that excitement, obviously with our podcast, tons of listeners. That's what you want. You want that excitement. We're the Elgin Police Department. We are a police department. Us getting into the podcast business, there's for one reason. It's to generate tips, interest, momentum. It's a thing. I mean, and eventually you get that going where, we're going to solve some there's no doubt. Like, I have full confidence in these guys. And most importantly, because you see their enthusiasm. Beth is excited to see a box. Can you imagine what's going to happen when this is who you need. These are the right people. So
you have to utilize all the stuff that's out there, all the platforms.
Yes.
That's what makes it so much neat. Because I tell you what, one thing, I can't wait to get out to that Shady Mar Lounge.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, the Shady Mar Lounge. So anyhow, as we wrap up here, any last things that you guys want to say?
No, just if you have information, please reach out to us, and we'll have another episode coming out in about 2 weeks. I think the week of the 29th.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys again for coming on. You guys will be back. Usually every month and a half I bring them on just to keep, that momentum here as well going on WRMN, which we truly appreciate our partnership and launching the podcast. I will not be here next week, so there will be no Friday with the Finest. I'm actually going to go on vacation, so we're going to take a little break here, and then I will be back on July 3rd as we start kind of kicking off the 4th of July weekend. So I hope everyone has a safe week. Obviously, Sunday is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers in our Elgin community, at the police department, and all the fathers in your life. So, so you guys are dads, right? So happy Father's Day. Yes, you're welcome.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Another one. Fridays with the Finest, Chief Anna Lally and the Cold Case crew. They are great. We will see you next week.